Hi, I'm Artem, an IT journalist and the podcast host here at Anywhere Club. And we continue our series about IT all over the world. My guest today is Tilek Mamutov, a first software developer in Google from Kyrgyzstan. When he was young, he got a job there and moved to Ireland, then to Switzerland, then to the United States. For many years, he traveled a lot and finally came back to Kyrgyzstan, to his homeland, where he lives right now. Today, Tilek is the founder of a successful startup, Outtalent, and an inspirational figure for many Kyrgyz software developers. But before we begin, please check the website of Anywhere Club, awclub. It's a digital platform for global community of IT professionals, and you can find a lot of useful things there. So, let's start. Hi, Tilek. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Doing great. It's Friday evening.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to the weekend.
So, you're a first software developer in Google from Kyrgyzstan, right?
Yes. And in some ways, maybe from Central Asia. I think there was one guy from Uzbekistan, but he finished the high school in the US. He was earlier than me at Google. But out of people who completed high school in Central Asia, I think I might have been the first. It's a little hard to check, but we couldn't find anyone in many years.
Okay.
I joined Google at 2007 and left 11 years after, 2018.
What's the story behind it? How did you manage to get on Google?
Yeah, at the time, we didn't know anyone who worked in big tech. I think there was a rumor about one guy at Microsoft. And I worked after finishing college in Kyrgyzstan. I worked as a software engineer, freelance developer. One day I get this email saying, "Would you like to work for Google? Has free food, ping pong table, life insurance, health insurance." It's a long list of benefits. It was so unbelievable. I thought it was a scam, and I was very, very cautious. It turned out it was actually Google, and I was really shocked because even in Kyrgyzstan, I was sometimes struggling to find a job. I didn't really think I was that good. But turned out it was Google. I applied. I couldn't get a job first time. And then I reapplied in about 6 months. And I managed to get a job from the second try. And it was completely life-changing in many ways. I moved from Kyrgyzstan to Ireland, to the headquarters. And my life changed big time ever since.
So just like that, they messaged you first.
They messaged me first, yes. And the reason they found me, my resume was on monster.com. It was there because it was homework. I didn't plan to work, in Europe or at Google. I planned to study Japanese language and get a master's degree in Japan. That was my plan. And I found one scholarship, but you needed to have 2 years of experience. So I thought, okay, for 2 years, I'm going to work in Kyrgyzstan for some time, and only later I'll apply to Japan. So it was not really a plan at all. It's completely by surprise. I mean, obviously the resume was pretty good. I had a lot of experience, software engineering already, and I knew several languages. At the time, I knew Italian pretty well, Japanese a bit, and I had experience teaching computer science in university. I think I was the youngest teacher maybe. And so the resume was good. It was not nothing. But it was not planned. It was a big surprise.
Was it difficult to pass all the interviews to Google? Because nowadays it's really difficult to get on Google.
I mean, it was. I mean, for me, especially then, my English wasn't as good. A lot of studies in my university were in English, but still, sometimes I didn't understand what they were asking. I think the questions technically were not as difficult for me. Because it was not a software engineer role, it was more like analytical role. It's good to know CSS and JavaScript and HTML, but it wasn't an algorithms interview. But a lot of interviews were behavioral, and I wasn't really sure what they were looking for. I didn't even know what behavioral interview is. I was like preparing for the interview like 2 weeks before. Now I started a company that helps prepare, and it takes many months to prepare. Now I know you have to be very serious. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a little easier then. It was definitely difficult for me, given my level of knowledge back then.
So you said your life completely changed since then. Uh, what's your life became after you get in Google?
Yeah, in many ways. I think the work quality, obviously, the salary. My salary in Kyrgyzstan officially was like $30 a month. It was a teacher salary. Unofficially, once in a while, I would get kind of like projects, freelance projects. All in all, it was like $4,000 a year in Kyrgyzstan. At Google, it was like 10 times more. It was 33,000 euro minus tax, but 33,000 euro was 2007 starting salary for me. And but still, it was like a first time I got a credit card. I could, first time living alone, first time living abroad, for real, and getting to know so many international friends. A lot of them, most of them from Europe, but also some from like Brazil, Morocco, and India, many other countries. So yeah, it was completely changed, like the social circle, standard of living, in many, many ways.
So you lived there for 11 years.
I lived in Ireland for 6 years and 1 year in Switzerland, and then several years in US, 9 years, I think, in total. I lived there also after leaving Google. And now I'm back from US. I actually moved back to Kyrgyzstan to complete the full circle.
Why did you choose to came back?
Yeah, it's very unusual. Usually people go the other way from Kyrgyzstan, and a lot of people are surprised. So I don't know. I love Kyrgyzstan. I love the people. I love the culture. Love is the best word to answer it, because it's kind of may seem illogical and irrational from career perspective, from many other perspective, quality of life. So after traveling so much and living in so many places, I decided, I can be happy here and productive. And work-wise, with the new setup, with the remote work being so popular, now I can run a company from Kyrgyzstan.
You participated in Kyrgyzstan language in Google Translate.
Yes. A lot of people wrote to me and said, when can we get Kyrgyz language in Google Translate? And then I asked the team, Google Translate, when can we get Kyrgyz language? They showed me a list of languages, priority. It was extremely far. There were like 100 Indian languages before, so many Indian languages. And they have so much more population, And then they looked at how much content there is online, because the way it works, at least worked, is it looks at a lot of content online, especially the multilingual websites like United Nations, where there's the same page in many languages. And it uses that to train machine learning. For Kyrgyz language, it was extremely few web pages like that. It was completely not enough. So they said it's not enough.
So how did you manage?
And then, that's a good question. It's a very good story. Then volunteers said, what can we do? We'll do anything. Kind of, I'm exaggerating. But like, we really wanted, they were really pushing. And so I was talking to the teams like, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? There was one guy, David Talbot. He's an amazing engineer. He left Google, unfortunately. He's doing, I think, something in biotech. And he found out, came up with a way. So we convinced him to, and the way he came up with is, they will show many examples of text and will force translate it like with humans based on the tags. So they show text, and you have to show where like different parts of the sentence, and you have to provide a lot of data in a very specific format. And they basically developed a whole different tool for community input for Kyrgyzstan, for Kyrgyz language. And once Kyrgyz language used it, it was launched, it was a success, and now they started using it for many other languages. I think Navajo, the Indian Native American language, was using that tool as well. So they launched this for many other languages, and Kyrgyzstan became basically the initiator of this tool.
Wow.
So
Great.
I'm personally very proud of it. I'm very proud of our country and community. And I use Google Translate all the time because my Kyrgyz is not perfect. So I use it sometimes. And that's probably my biggest contribution to the country of Kyrgyzstan right now. We'll see. I don't know.
It's a really great contribution. Yeah. I would be proud.
Thank you. Obviously, I was not an engineer building it. There's many engineers. Svetlana Kelman from Russia, she was a project manager for Google Translate in general. But I helped basically coordinate and to make sure this is going to actually happen. But it's a big team. This team at Google is a big team of people in Kyrgyzstan who did it. But I believe I played a crucial role. If not me, I don't know if it will happen. Because Google was not very interested. And Kyrgyzstan, it was too hard to kind of break, to convince Google to do things. After I left, it's very hard to convince Google to do things. Now people ask me to convince them, but it's harder. So I think it was probably my biggest contribution while I worked at Google for Kyrgyzstan specifically.
So it's a contribution not only for Kyrgyzstan, but in other local languages, as you said, is Navajo.
True, yes. Yeah. And I helped with some other languages like Uzbek and Kazakh. Actually, I helped launch many things. Uzbek keyboard for Android. I was actually choosing which button will go where. And it's in the history. It's in the Google logs. You can see my name.
Wow.
If somebody wants to check.
You're a legend.
Thank you. No, I led the group Central Asians at Google. If there's anything about Central Asia, it would come to me usually. And I was doing it for 11 years, about 11 years. And so I helped launch Google Street View in Kyrgyzstan. I basically got Uzbek, Kazakh, and Kyrgyz into a top languages list, so that many products are translated into these languages.
Great.
I managed to convince Google that these are important. Please translate to these languages too. So. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a great story. Yeah. Thank you. So
I like it because it's so you can always check. If you don't believe me, it's in Google backtracking tool. You can always look up my name.
Oh, I'm a bad journalist. I don't check. I believe
That's
just
okay. It's for people.
You say it, and I believe you. So about Kyrgyzstan, could you compare the Kyrgyzstan you live in for when you was young, and Kyrgyzstan when you came back there?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I think in many ways for the better. It's much more developed in technologically. There's a lot of changes in politics. There were a lot of revolutions. So politics is challenging in many ways. But in terms of the development, business and technology is really good. It's very comfortable for me to live here, even though I lived in San Francisco, LA, and Zurich. If you have a certain amount of money, it's very comfortable, I think. So financial services, everywhere is mobile payments. Very rarely I need cash, actually, as compared to before. It's amazing co-working spaces. I'm in Ololo. It's a co-working space. They have a co-living space. It's a big network. They have places at the resort areas, Isiku Lake, and it's amazing. There's a lot more infrastructure. I got an electric car, so now there's many electric charging stations. It's actually quite comfortable. I never have to worry about charging. There's a charging station right here at work, and I just charge there. There's no line, and it's extremely cheap, so it's really comfortable. So there's a lot of infrastructure actually that's been built in the last years. So looking back, it's been tremendous progress.
Yeah, sounds nice. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Let's remember the past days when you was young and you were. Where did you study?
It's called American University in Central Asia. It was a relatively new university. I was the second year of computer science. It's called software engineering, the department. And so it's very small. We graduated, I think only 5 or 3 people graduated from my class. But it's a great university. It's an American system of education. There's a lot of freedom of choice. You had to be very honest. I didn't know anyone who paid a bribe, which is quite common in Kyrgyzstan. So if you fail, you fail. That was unusual. And so that was good. Yeah, it was very international. Yeah, I have a lot of good memories about it.
Yeah. Why did you choose computer sciences? I think maybe those times software developer was not so popular profession like now.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and there were a lot of stereotypes. There was a stereotype that Kyrgyz people of our ethnicity cannot be good software engineers. It has to be only Russians or Koreans. I don't know. Many silly stereotypes. And so it was unusual, very unusual. I didn't know anyone who was like a Kyrgyz software engineer. Most of them were Russian ethnically. And I just liked it. In high school, I just loved computers, even though it was just QBasic. It was extremely basic interface. I already fell in love with it. Even then, I thought it was fun. You could make kind of jokes and games. It was kind of a fun thing to play around with. And later I found out there's also, financially good, but I didn't know how good, which is comparatively. I mean, it was 2001 back then, and it was cool. I got very lucky that I loved the thing that was also financially quite viable.
So it was financial good even in those times, even in...
Comparatively to other careers, right? If you're finished as an economist or a lawyer, it was easier. Most of people would go to study economy or law, and that was like, I don't know, 70% maybe of the country would go to study this, and it's unclear what the career path is. For IT, for software engineering, the career path is pretty clear usually.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Now it is.
Back then it was actually very unusual because customers didn't know how to order things, right? Like they asked me to do a website, I finish it after 3 months, and then they said, oh yeah, it also has to work on a CD offline in the village. I was like, I mean, it's a big and then I couldn't change it to make it work. And if they don't understand that is a completely different technology, right? So there were a lot of issues like that back then.
But you also decided to become a teacher. Why did you choose it?
I love teaching. I love teaching. I can teach even when I'm drunk. I offer people to teach them something. I love teaching people to drive, play chess, math, computer science, anything. I don't know why. It was my first thing I wanted to be. As a kid, I wanted to be a teacher of mathematics.
So you was as you said, you was a youngest teacher in which did you study
in university?
In university.
Yes, because I started teaching around 2005. I was 20, maybe 19 even. So a lot of the students were older than me. I think I was told I was the youngest. I'm not sure. That I don't guarantee. But yeah, it was cool. I was super young, and people had I got very good grades from students in terms of the quality of teaching. So it's pretty good, probably.
So you made a path for, I think, a lot of software developers from Kyrgyzstan. I think nowadays a lot more people work even in Google and our companies. So tell me about Kyrgyzstan nowadays and about its IT industry. What it's look like.
It's cool. It's growing a lot. I think it started with outsourcing companies, and there are some great outsourcing companies like Mad Devs is the biggest one probably, by Oleg Puzanov and others. We are actually working with them. They were there for like 15 years now. It's a pretty experienced company. So that was how it started. And we have a special called IT Park, similar to Belarus, where you have very low tax regime. I'm a part of it too. So it helped grow many outsourcing companies. That was a start. But in addition to that, we also now have many local projects like mobile banking and stuff like that, and startups. We have startups that are funded by top investors in Silicon Valley, like Founders Fund, including ours. We were part of Y Combinator. Then we have startups, global audiences with audiences in like most countries of the world, like more than 50% of countries. So this new wave is startups. We don't have a big exit yet, like in Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, or Kazakhstan. In Kazakhstan, there's companies that did IPO. There's no Kyrgyz person that I know. I don't think there's a Kyrgyz person who did an IPO or a big acquisition. We don't have unicorns yet. There will be soon, maybe this year. There may be first unicorn from Kyrgyzstan. Could be Behavex. We have a Behavex company by Erkin Adilov is the CEO. I think they're getting close to unicorn. If they will do a fundraise. Next fundraise, hopefully there will be a unicorn. And so yeah, we are not yet there. We will be, I'm sure, and there will be many unicorns. But yeah, it's like a nascent startup ecosystem. But it's starting to kind of come up. Angels are coming up. I angel invested, I think, in two companies. They were both fitness startups. So there's like angel investing coming up. People applying to accelerators. Like we joined Y Combinator. There's another accelerator, Antler, that two companies joined. Investors are getting to know the country. So yeah, it's growing a lot. There's many in this building. There's really cool companies. There's also branches of companies. There's a B12 startup in New York with top investors as well. They have a branch in Kyrgyzstan. There's another one that just popped up. It's a health tech startup from US. So co-founder is in Kyrgyzstan. So yeah, I think where we are at is that there's multiple companies with tens of millions of dollars of valuation. Behavex is probably hundreds of millions of valuation. We're not yet at a unicorn. The big moment will be unicorn. That will make news. Then exit will make news, either IPO or a big acquisition. That may take a while. A unicorn may happen this year, big IPO acquisition later, and then a lot of people get rich, and then other people see it. It will motivate more people to join this, and more people will start startups. And I mean, we've seen it in Belarus and Ukraine and Russia. That they are a little bit ahead of us in some ways, but we have different startups which are cool.
Yeah, I see you know a lot about local startups. So, but is it a common strategy for local startup is to make business internationally and globally, or a lot of do you have startups that do products for internal market?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, Oleg Puzanov, who I mentioned, they did a lot of those. They had Namba, but they did it started mainly in Kazakhstan because it's a bigger market. Kyrgyzstan is 6 million people, I think, and maybe 7 now. And it's not too big. It's incomparable to Russia, or even Ukraine is much bigger, right? It's more comparable to Belarus, where local market is just very small. It's very hard, rare to start with the local market and go global. Actually, we did it. We started with Kyrgyzstan as the first market, and then quickly went to Russian-speaking market. But it's rare. Usually, people go global for. Well, it depends. Like the two startups that I founded, I think they started in Kyrgyzstan. Now they're global. That I invested in is Fit Job, is fitness for Muslim women, right? And there's another one, NB Fit. It's fitness for. I'm simplifying, but for like pregnant women or like pre-pregnancy, prenatal and postnatal fitness. I think I'm not sure, mixing up the terms, but they are now global, and they started, I think, locally. And so there's not that many startups that I know about that do global stuff. There's maybe we have a Telegram group. There's like 10 probably. We know all of them usually. We all know each other. So yeah, but it's nice. It's a cool community. It's quite friendly.
Let's imagine the software developer in Kyrgyzstan who looking for a job. Where it's easy for him to find its job, in outsourcing company or in big local corporation or in startup?
Easier to find a job at a bank or telecom or government. They really want engineers. But more preferable is a good outsourcing company. Even more preferable is a top startup.
Yeah.
I think the salaries are also like usually higher. Like we have 2 developers, we pay them pretty well, right? So I think product companies usually are like more attractive, but it depends. Of course, there's different things. Mad Devs is a great company again. So that's an outsourcing company, consulting actually. And but if you want to start, it's either government or bank or telecom. I think that's a general theme in developing countries. Banks, telecoms, it's kind of like an IT company in a way.
Yeah.
They need a lot of engineering, and that's a good entrance. And governments need a lot of engineering. But usually their processes typically are not as good for software engineers, and it's not at the core of their business.
Yes.
So that's why outsourcing is more preferable, and product companies even more preferable. So yeah, I think the product companies, startups will be the leaders for the market. Local startups, like we have mBank. In Kazakhstan, there's a similar company called Kaspi. It's a mobile banking. They have good engineers, I'm sure. I don't know them, but it's rare to have a local company which is developing well, because it's just a very small market.
And which part is the biggest in this market?
In terms of revenue, valuation, engineers?
No. Maybe about quantity of people.
Engineers? Probably
engineers.
outsourcing.
Outsourcing.
It's huge. I don't even know all of them, yes. Banks and telecom is quite limited. Outsourcing, there's probably hundreds of companies. There's a lot of small ones. Product companies are very small. This is very small. But product companies is the biggest in terms of valuation.
Yeah.
Our valuation is $30 million. We had 2 employees, now we have 5. It's $30 million. So it's very easy. It's probably one of the biggest companies now in Kyrgyzstan. So it's very easy with startups to have high valuation, right? There's some people on the idea, if they have good connection Silicon Valley, they have an idea, they can get like $10 million valuation. It's quite a funny way to count. In terms of engineering, is probably outsourcing. Revenue, maybe banks and telecoms, they have more revenue. I don't know. Didn't count their money.
So when you run a startup in Kyrgyzstan, is it difficult to find investors, partners, and everything else from the global world? Because I spoke with CEO of IT university in Uzbekistan, and he told me In Europe and in USA and a lot of other countries, they even don't know what Uzbekistan is and where is it.
Yep. Kyrgyzstan is much harder because they think it's Kurdistan, it's part of Iraq. Not a good thing to be associated. We're working on changing that. But I think the best way, for me, I built my reputation at Google, right? I was a project lead at Google X, my last job. So it's very good for the resume. So when I applied to Y Combinator, they looked at Google X and I think it mattered. In addition to other things. So building a reputation abroad helps you get to know people who can either invest or introduce you to investors.
Yeah.
Right. So you get a network of, in simple words, rich people. Right. You're getting closer there. Another way is getting into an accelerator. So 2 startups. One is Upboxo. This was funded by Founders Fund. Their valuation, I think, is probably 50 million, more than us. I think it's 50, maybe it's 30. So they got into Antler accelerator in Singapore, and that was great for them, right? That's what I think made the difference for them. After that, they get to know a lot of investors. Now they're good. They have Founders Fund as investor. Codify also got into, there's another startup, Codify. It's a learning management system for bootcamps. They got into Antler as well. So that's another good way. I think startup accelerators. So they're a great way to get seen by investors. If you don't want to spend time building reputation abroad, it's faster. So I would recommend more startups in countries like Kyrgyzstan to apply to accelerators. Y Combinator I loved. Strongly recommend to many startups. I recommended many startups from those countries, from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, into Y Combinator. Maybe not Belarus, but Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan. Two of them got in. One Ukrainian one called Atomic was great. They got into Y Combinator. So yeah, there's. I think that's a really good way. Y Combinator, strongly recommend, but there's many other accelerators.
Can you tell me about the local community of developers? I think you know a lot about it.
Sure. So we have Google Developer Group. We have a bunch of other groups. We have many companies organizing their own events, outsourcing companies organizing their own events. We have all kinds of conferences. I think it's a pretty good community. There are challenges sometimes, but in general, I think it's pretty good. There's no one big community where everyone talks in one place. There was one group, but not everyone is there. There are a lot of men. At one point, there was like a gender issue. But I think now it's friendlier in general. There's different sub-communities. And it's a very small country in a way that people know each other. It's very small.
Yeah.
We see each other all the time.
What is the most popular way to become a software developer in Kyrgyzstan?
I think now it's a boot camp. It's basically courses, they're called, programming courses. The problem is most people don't get a job. I think they have unrealistic expectations. Expectation is in 3 months, you learn JavaScript and you'll get a job. And then that pretty much never happens. That's a problem. I think most cases you get a job if you start building your own projects, if you do things by yourself. But people who go to these courses, boot camps, they do 3 months of programming, then they stop when they finish the course, then they apply for jobs for many months, then they don't get a job, and then they quit. It's very sad, actually. I hope to change it later, but it's sad the way it works. Because it is just they think that they are stupid. People who finish courses, right? And then people who sell courses, they don't care. They say, look, IT is cool. You'll get rich. Look at Tilek Mamutov. He's rich. He worked at Google, right? And they kind of sell and they don't care about the results. And it's like 10% of people get jobs and something like that. But it's the same problem in US and many other countries.
Same problem. Yeah.
Unique. And then the problem is people who apply to courses, they don't even ask. Right? If they were smarter, probably they would have asked how many people get the jobs. But that's a problem globally. People are not very conscious. US is a tremendous problem, right? People have $1 trillion debt, student debt. Students don't think about, don't plan. What will be my job? Where will I apply? Let's look at the job description. What is needed? Almost nobody's does it, right? It's we just kind of go with the flow. You know, I mean, it's kind of the same thing about like getting married, having children. Most people just go with the flow. Very few people read 10 books about having children before having children. Yeah. Most people don't read even one book about having children. It's really important.
I read a couple. Not 10 books, but a couple.
So you have a kid? You have a child?
I have a daughter,
nice.
Yeah.
Congrats. So you read 2 books. That's more. That's 2 more than most people I know. Yeah. So I think it's cool. But yeah, I think if people are more conscious, then they'll be more careful. But even if they are careful, I don't know if I would recommend any course right now.
I understand.
Well, it depends. Like if you have to go, I would recommend something, but it wouldn't be like, oh, this is a great course. I would do it. There's Levagon, it's pretty good. But again, they don't teach people how to be self-sustaining. They don't teach people how to fall in love with programming. That's the problem globally. They teach people like how to, you know, whatever, do a table in HTML or how to like create a MySQL table. But then you finish the course and you're done. You don't have a habit of engineering. You don't have a love of engineering.
And fundamental education, classic university fundamental education, is popular?
Yeah. I mean, most people go to university still because parents are telling kids to go, and kids are, most of them listen to their parents. In other words, they're not separated emotionally. They I think it's probably part of Asian culture. You know, people abide by their parents, and yeah, that's why they go to university. And parents have a stupid reason to send people to university. This is just this is a problematic thing. I was thinking of doing something there too as a business to help people get disconnected emotionally from their parents, stop being children, basically. Yeah. I stopped like last year not to listen to my mother. I mean, I don't listen to her most of the time, but still, if she gets upset, I felt bad.
In the wet way, we are all children. Yeah, when your mother upset, it's really bad. No.
Yeah, but if she's using it to manipulate you, she can use it potentially, right? But yeah, no, I love my mom. She's great. She's the best. Yeah, but still, like I think that's the issue. And if you change that, a lot more people will get great jobs and be happy and be productive, have a good life. But anyways, every problem is a business opportunity. So we'll get there.
So these courses, which are, as I understand, are not all of them great, are they expensive? Is it expensive to go through the course? I don't
really know. I'm sure there's expensive ones and the cheap ones, but it's much faster than the university. That is attractive. There's one which is pretty good. It's called Attractors School. It's a 1-year course, and 90% of people get jobs, I think. That's good. um, education style not everyone likes, but it's the most result focused. You will get a job, most likely.
Interesting.
While most other courses, it's like 10% of people will get a job. Right? And they're okay, they don't care. I would be very sad if 10% of my students only finished. Yeah. So honestly, yeah, sometimes it's a problem now with Outtalent. When there were layoffs, we got hit pretty bad. Before layoffs, like 90% of people, more than 90 actually got jobs at big tech. And now it's much harder, and it's sad. We are trying to change it.
Yes. And what are most popular technologies in Kyrgyzstan to learn? Who people want to become? A front-end developer, a Python developer, data scientist, or what?
No, mainly web developer, mainly
developer.
JavaScript and Python. Very rarely mobile or game developer or something like that. It's usually JavaScript or Python. Sometimes it's something else like Java. But Java is usually like if you work in a bank and telecom, it's not exciting for people. People ask me all the time which programming language to start with. And usually JavaScript and Python. And everyone in the industry now says this. We are kind of aligned, JavaScript or Python. I don't know about other countries. We are aligned. That's a good way to start. And there's courses, JavaScript, Python courses, and people do them, hope to become web developers or just like basic developers in Python. But those get a job who actually like continue self-develop, which is not most people.
And how can you see most common usual way of career in Kyrgyzstan? So, okay, here's the software developer. He goes through some courses, boot camps. He gets a job in bank or outsource company.
Yeah, you get a job in a government branch or a bank, and then you get some experience. You get bored because it's a bank. Not all banks, but that's usually happens. And then you get into like a outsourcing company for a couple of years, and then you either get into Outtalent, our company, and then get to like Google, Facebook, or you get into like a startup. Usually people end up either abroad, let's say Google, very few though, or a really good outsourcing company, and they can work there for a while, or they're like kind of freelance developer, really free and happy. Usually people who don't need an office, they can work from home. And people in startups, they can be there for a while too. So these are places where people like end up, they're like mature engineers. But yeah, beginnings is usually like government and bank and telecom.
And how do you see their life goals? Dream, career of dream. Do they want to stay
for most engineers?
For most engineers? Do they want to stay in Kyrgyzstan and work in great startup like yours, or do they want to move abroad to USA, to Google, to Ireland?
Sure. I think
to repeat your way.
My sample is biased because I mainly talk to people who want to get a job at Google, right? So I will be like completely skewed and screwed. So if people want to move abroad, there's two types of people. People who want to move abroad and don't come back to Kyrgyzstan. Usually people, and second type, people who want to move abroad and come back to Kyrgyzstan. Right? We'll see if that happens. But I'm like one of the very few people who did it. But I think there for sure will be more. And then some people, they don't want to move abroad. They're happy. And then they just want to have a good life in Kyrgyzstan, right? Comfortable job. They're usually more comfort focused, I think. If you're more career focused, progress focused, it really makes sense to move abroad for some time at least. pretty much everyone wants to move abroad if they are career focused, career progress focused. It's very hard to do big career progress from Kyrgyzstan for now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make it easier. We're like Outtalent now, we're here. Right? So we'll try to make it a good career thing. But for most people, again, if they want comfort, they can work in outsourcing company, like good one, and get good money, and buy everything they need. 2 houses, 3 houses, best car. What else do they need? Go to Thailand, Bali for vacation. Go to the best schools. Teacher, like their kids, whatever, 3 kids go to best schools. That's it. What else do they need? They don't care. But if your career progress, then yes, then Google is usually like that's the ones I talk to, because it's like it's one of the best ways. It's like this big tech companies, because they help with immigration. Startups oftentimes don't help with immigration. Small startups.
Yeah. Speaking about money, what is the average salary for example, a junior software web developer in Kyrgyzstan?
I don't know how low it goes. On the high mark, so I talk to mainly like the best engineers. I think so. It's around. It's a very top. It's 1,000. Right? It's around $1,000 a month, and there's very little tax, almost no tax. Right? But it would be unusual. A lot of people who hear it, they will say like it's not possible. But it's like a really, really good engineer. They're junior, but they have some experience. It's more like middle, like 1-2 years. Let's say 2 years of experience, top middle engineer. Junior, I don't know, maybe $500 a month. I'm not good at knowing local prices.
Oh.
It's somehow not my interest. I'm more interested in startups kind of thing.
Okay. And how many people succeed who you help to move to Google, to get to Google, to move abroad?
Yeah, before layoffs, it was like in total now it's like 92. So it's a lot, because the whole country of Kyrgyzstan in total is like 20 maybe. Sorry. So, and we have now people not only in Russian-speaking countries. We covered all Russian-speaking countries, like Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. Although Turkmenistan, he got into accelerator instead of a big tech company, but we still count it as a success. So, in addition to that, we have Nigeria. He's still looking for a job. We have Indonesia. He got a job at Palantir. And we have Hong Kong. He got a job in Hong Kong, which is funny. So yeah, we are getting international now.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. A lot of them are flying into Kyrgyzstan next week, starting tomorrow. We're gonna have people from many, many countries flying to Kyrgyzstan for offsite. We have like a retreat at the lake.
Wow.
There's a music festival. There's like 3 days of music festival, 2 days at the lake, in the mountains, horse riding. I'm going to do rafting, all the traditional, we'll see traditional singing, dances, eat good food, hike. It's going to be great.
What is your plans? Do you plan to live your life in Kyrgyzstan, or you want to travel maybe around the world, or maybe to live somewhere
traveled
else?
so much. I traveled, I don't know how many countries. But if I will never travel, I will not feel sad. I love traveling. I went even to North Korea. I went to Somalia.
Wow.
Many, many countries. Yes. And now I'm okay. I mean, I will travel, I'm sure. I love people around the world. I love learning about cultures, but I don't have to. Kyrgyzstan, I love. I'm comfortable here and I can grow here. I think I'm growing faster in Kyrgyzstan than I'm growing in Silicon Valley. I thought to grow fastest in tech, you need to be in Silicon Valley,
Mm-hmm.
which it depends. It really depends on your psychological profile and your personality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it really depends. You can be faster growing in Kyrgyzstan than in Silicon Valley. And I think that's a new thing, right? I'm kind of the first person to do that, to go to Silicon Valley and say, goodbye, I will be faster in Kyrgyzstan.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I really like that trend. And I really like that the world is, IT industry is starting to decentralize. That people can
It
live
is, yeah.
in their countries and work around the world globally. It's great.
There is a bit of fear of missing out, the FOMO,
Yes.
especially with like chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
But last time I went to US this spring, I went to this Anthropic
Mhm.
office, which is a top AI company now. There are a lot of people from OpenAI and I think some from Google went and started Anthropic. And I thought, I mean, it's cool what they do, but
Mhm.
it's like, it's not like God technology. It's technology, right? And like, do I have to be a part of it? So my FOMO is gone now.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, I don't, but I had a big FOMO. I really had.
Maybe it one was part of your success that you have FOMO. Now it can be
What do
a
you mean?
part of your happiness that you win it at last.
So can you explain?
I tried to say something wisdom, but I failed.
Yoda is trying to be Yoda. Yeah, but yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But quite happy in Kyrgyzstan. Very happy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm optimistic about country, about IT. I'm optimistic about myself. I'm optimistic about our company. We have an insanely good team. It's
Mm-hmm.
international. We have software engineers in this building. They are insanely good, insanely fast. So yeah, it's going
Tilek,
well.
thank you. Thank you so much. So it's such an interesting story. It was a really pleasure to have a conversation with you. Thank you for coming.
Sure. Thanks so much for inviting, and thanks everyone for listening. Come to Kyrgyzstan. It's really amazing here. We are inviting people from around the world now, hopefully every year, and there's a lot of cool developers. There's a lot of cool, cool people. Again,
Mhm.
I'm telling because I lived in Silicon Valley for like 9 years, 8 years. So there's a lot of smart people here, but there's some smart people in Kyrgyzstan too. I don't feel like people are less smart in Kyrgyzstan. I really don't. So yeah,
True,
thank you for your
true.
attention, and hope you enjoyed the interview. And let's connect online. I'm on Instagram, Telegram, LinkedIn. Yeah.